There are gates in this world that most never see. Not physical gates, but thresholds of understanding that separate those who live on the surface from those who operate beneath it. For centuries, certain orders, societies, and lineages have guarded knowledge not because it grants magical powers, but because it fundamentally alters perception. And once perception shifts, everything shifts. The 33rd degree of Freemasonry has long been whispered about, mythologized, treated as the ultimate secret. But the real secret isn't locked in a vault or written in a hidden text. It's a recognition. A simple, devastating recognition that once seen, cannot be unseen. And it's not about Freemasonry at all. It's about what Freemasonry, along with every other mystery school throughout history, has been pointing toward. The architecture of reality itself. The number 33 appears throughout history with suspicious frequency. Jesus was said to have been crucified at 33. The human spine has 33 vertebrae. There are 33 segments in the spinal column. Dante's Divine Comedy is divided into 3 sections of 33 cantos each. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes 33 heavens. These aren't coincidences. They're markers. Clues left by those who understood that reality operates on layers, and 33 represents the completion of a cycle, the full ascent, the point where the initiate is no longer learning the rules but understanding why the rules exist. And more importantly, understanding who made them. But before we go further, understand this. The 33rd degree secret is not what you think. It's not a ritual. It's not a handshake. It's not even a piece of information in the traditional sense. It's a shift in the lens through which you interpret everything. Imagine you've spent your entire life looking at the world through a red filter. Everything appears red. You believe red is the nature of reality. Then someone hands you a clear lens. Suddenly, you see colors you didn't know existed. The world didn't change. Your ability to perceive it did. That's the 33rd degree. It's not about gaining something new. It's about removing the filter you didn't know was there. Most people live their entire lives governed by systems they never question. They follow rules they didn't write. They chase goals they didn't choose. They accept definitions of success, morality, purpose, all handed down from structures built long before they were born. And they believe they're free. They believe they're making choices. But choice within a pre-designed system is not freedom. It's permission. And the 33rd degree secret begins with recognizing that you've been living inside a framework, not outside of it. Like a fish that doesn't know it's swimming in water because it's never experienced air. The great secret societies understood that humanity operates on levels. Not levels of worth, but levels of awareness. The ground level is survival. Most people live here. They work to eat. They eat to live. They live to work. The cycle continues. One level up is comfort. They've secured survival and now seek pleasure, distraction, validation. Another level up is meaning. They ask why they exist, what their purpose is, whether there's something beyond the material. And each level believes it has arrived at truth. But those operating at higher levels can see that what feels like truth at one level is simply the ceiling of that floor. And there are more floors above. The 33 degrees represent a ladder of initiation. But here's what most miss. The ladder isn't about accumulating knowledge. It's about shedding illusion. Each degree is not an addition. It's a subtraction. You don't gain a secret. You lose a lie. And by the time you reach the 33rd, you've lost so many lies that what remains is devastatingly simple. So simple that those still climbing think it can't possibly be the answer. They expect complexity. They expect esoteric formulas and hidden codes. But the ultimate secret is always simple. It has to be. Because truth, unlike illusion, doesn't require decoration. So what is it? What's the recognition that changes everything? It's this. You are not in the game. You are the game. You are not observing reality. You are generating it. Not metaphorically. Not philosophically. Structurally. The entire experience you call life, every sensation, every interaction, every challenge, is not happening to you. It's happening through you. And the moment you realize that, the moment you see that the player and the board are one, the rules stop binding you. Not because they disappear, but because you recognize you've been following rules you yourself are projecting into form. This is what sends people into shock when they first glimpse it. Because if you are generating the reality you're experiencing, then every complaint, every victimhood narrative, every "they did this to me" falls apart. There's no they. There's only you in different costumes, playing different roles, testing yourself, challenging yourself, teaching yourself. And the ones who reach the 33rd degree don't talk about it openly because explaining it sounds insane to those still convinced they're separate from the world around them. So they stay silent. They build symbols. They leave clues. And they wait for the ones ready to see. Power, as most understand it, is the ability to control others, to command resources, to influence outcomes. And entire systems have been built on this definition. Governments, corporations, religions, all structured around the idea that power flows from the top down, that some have it and others don't, and that the goal is to climb high enough to wield it. But the 33rd degree reveals an inversion. True power is not over others. True power is over the self. And the self, once mastered, reveals that there was never another to control in the first place. This is where the secret becomes dangerous. Not dangerous in the sense of harmful, but dangerous to the structures that rely on your belief in separation. If you realize that the authority you've been deferring to your entire life, the government, the employer, the institution, has no power except what you grant it through belief, the entire architecture collapses. Not the external architecture. That can remain standing. But your internal relationship to it dissolves. You stop being governed by it. You start moving through it. And the difference between being governed and moving through is the difference between a prisoner and a ghost. Think of a video game. The character on screen follows the rules of the game. Gravity, health bars, boundaries. The player, sitting outside the screen, knows these rules are arbitrary. They're code. And while the character can't break the rules, the player can turn off the console. The 33rd degree is realizing you're not the character. You're the player. And the moment you realize that, every rule becomes optional. Not in the sense that you can fly or phase through walls, but in the sense that you stop mistaking the game for reality. You play it, but you're not trapped in it. This is what mystery schools have always taught through allegory. The hero's journey. The descent into the underworld. The return with the treasure. These aren't bedtime stories. They're maps. The underworld represents the subconscious. The place where all the rules you've been following unconsciously are stored. The descent is the process of becoming aware of them. And the treasure is the recognition that the rules were always yours to change. But most people never descend. They stay on the surface, living according to codes they've internalized without examination, wondering why life feels so constrictive. Power, in the inverted sense, is not the ability to impose your will on the world. It's the ability to choose your response to the world. And response, not reaction, is the mark of one who has passed through the degrees. Reaction is automatic. Someone insults you and anger rises. Someone threatens you and fear takes over. You're being played. You're a puppet to external stimuli. But response is deliberate. Someone insults you and you pause. You feel the anger. You recognize it. And you choose whether to express it, transmute it, or release it. That choice, that gap between stimulus and response, is where freedom lives. And it's a freedom no external authority can grant or remove. The inversion also applies to knowledge. Most believe that the more they know, the more powerful they become. And so they accumulate facts, skills, credentials. But the 33rd degree reveals that knowing too much can be a cage. Because every piece of knowledge comes with assumptions. Every framework limits what you can see. The more you know within a system, the harder it is to see beyond the system. This is why children often perceive truths that adults have educated themselves out of seeing. The child hasn't yet learned what's impossible. And so, occasionally, the impossible happens around them. The masters, the ones who truly understand, learn to unlearn. They don't hoard knowledge. They wield it when necessary and release it when it no longer serves. They move fluidly between frameworks, adopting beliefs temporarily to navigate specific situations, then discarding them when the situation changes. They're not attached to being right. They're interested in being effective. And effectiveness requires flexibility, not rigidity. This is the inversion. The ignorant cling to their beliefs. The wise hold theirs lightly. And the enlightened recognize that belief itself is a tool, not a truth. This is also why secret societies use ritual. Not because the ritual has inherent power, but because ritual trains the mind to enter and exit states consciously. You put on the robe, you become the role. You remove the robe, you return to ordinary consciousness. It's theater, but it's theater with a purpose. It teaches you that identity is fluid, that you are not the role you play. You are the awareness that can play any role. And once you internalize that, the roles the world tries to assign you, employee, citizen, consumer, lose their grip. You can wear them, but you're not defined by them. The inversion of power ultimately reveals this. You've been taught to seek power outside yourself, degrees, titles, wealth, influence. But every external power is conditional. It can be taken. It can be lost. It depends on others recognizing it. But the power within, the power to choose your state, your response, your lens, that cannot be taken. It can only be surrendered. And most people surrender it daily, handing their inner authority over to whoever speaks loudly enough. The 33rd degree is the reclaiming. Not a reclaiming of control over the world, but of sovereignty over the only territory you were ever meant to rule, yourself. Separation is the founding illusion. From the moment of birth, you're taught to see yourself as distinct. You are you, I am me. We are separate beings, navigating a shared world, each with our own experiences, our own perspectives, our own lives. And this belief feels so fundamental, so self-evident, that questioning it seems absurd. Of course you're separate. You can't feel what I feel. You can't think my thoughts. You can't be in two places at once. But the 33rd degree secret unravels this. And when it does, the implications ripple through every aspect of existence. Quantum mechanics stumbled into this truth from the side door. Entanglement, non-locality, the observer effect. All of these phenomena point to the same uncomfortable reality. Separation is a perceptual artifact, not a fundamental truth. Two particles, once connected, remain connected regardless of distance. Observation collapses possibility into actuality. The universe, at its most basic level, is not a collection of separate objects. It's a unified field, expressing itself through infinite localized points of awareness. And you, what you call you, are one of those points. But you're not separate from the field. You're an extension of it. Like a wave is not separate from the ocean. It's the ocean, temporarily expressing itself in a specific form. This is not a metaphor. This is structure. Your body is made of atoms that were once part of stars. The oxygen you breathe was exhaled by trees. The water in your cells has cycled through countless organisms before you. There is no clear boundary where you end and world begins. The skin is not a wall. It's a membrane, permeable, constantly exchanging. You are not in the environment. You are a pattern of energy within the environment, momentarily condensed into a form that calls itself I. But if separation is an illusion, why does it feel so real? Because the illusion serves a purpose. Separation allows for experience. If there were no distinction between self and other, there could be no interaction, no relationship, no growth. The illusion is not a mistake. It's a feature. The universe wanted to experience itself, and to do that, it had to pretend to be many. It had to fragment its awareness into billions of localized perspectives, each believing they were separate, each encountering others, each learning through interaction. But the game only works if the players forget they're all the same consciousness. And most do forget. They stay immersed in the game, convinced the separation is permanent. The 33rd degree is the moment you remember. Not intellectually, not as a concept you read in a book, but as a lived recognition. You look at another person and for a moment, the veil drops. You see yourself looking back. Not symbolically, not poetically. You recognize that the awareness behind their eyes is the same awareness behind yours. The thoughts are different. The memories are different. The personality is different. But the witness, the consciousness experiencing those thoughts, those memories, that personality, is identical. It's one awareness, localized in infinite forms, each believing it's separate, each playing its role, but all stemming from the same source. This recognition is not comfortable, because if the person harming you is you, if the person suffering is you, if every act of cruelty and every act of kindness is you acting upon yourself, then blame dissolves. Victimhood dissolves. And so does righteousness. You can no longer stand on the moral high ground and condemn them, because there is no them. There's only you in different costumes, exploring different facets of experience. This is why the secret is guarded. Not because it's privileged information, but because most people are not ready to carry the weight of that recognition. It's easier to believe in separation. It's easier to have enemies. It's easier to be the hero of your own story and the villain of someone else's. But those who pass through the illusion of separation don't lose their humanity. They gain something deeper. Compassion. Not the surface-level kind that pities from a distance, but the bone-deep kind that recognizes your suffering is my suffering. Your joy is my joy. There is no distance. And from that recognition, action changes. Not because of obligation or morality, but because harming another makes no sense when you understand that other is you. It's like the right hand attacking the left. Possibly yes, but ultimately self-destructive. This is also why the 33rd degree emphasizes the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. Not because of some mystical law, but because there's only one pattern, repeating at every scale. The structure of an atom mirrors the structure of a solar system. The branching of a tree mirrors the branching of your lungs. The spiral of a galaxy mirrors the spiral of a shell. It's all the same design, scaled up and down, because it's all the same designer. And that designer is not a being separate from creation. It's creation itself, aware of itself, expressing through form. When you truly see this, when the illusion of separation cracks, the world doesn't disappear. It intensifies. Colors become richer. Sounds become clearer. Connection becomes effortless. Because you're no longer navigating from the stance of a separate self trying to reach other separate selves. You're moving as the unified field, temporarily localized, interacting with other localizations, each encounter a meeting with yourself. And from that space, conflict becomes absurd. Not impossible, but absurd. Like arguing with your reflection. Once separation is seen through, the mechanics of how reality forms become obvious. Most people believe manifestation is about getting things. Attracting cars, money, relationships. And there's a whole industry built on teaching techniques for this. But the 33rd degree understanding reveals that manifestation is not acquisition. It's alignment. You're not pulling things toward you. You're tuning into the frequency where those things already exist. And in tuning, you become a match. Not for the object itself, but for the reality in which that object is present in your experience. Here's the mechanism. Reality is not solid. It's probabilistic. Every possibility exists in potential, hovering in superposition. But only one version collapses into your experience at any given moment. And what determines which version collapses? Your state, not your thoughts alone. Not your desires alone. But the sum total of your being in that moment. Your beliefs. Your emotions. Your expectations. Your nervous system. All of these combine to form a signal. And the signal tunes you to a specific frequency. And the frequency determines the version of reality you experience. Think of it like standing in a hall of infinite doors. Each door leads to a different version of your life. Behind one door, you're wealthy. Behind another, you're struggling. Behind one, you're loved. Behind another, you're alone. All versions exist simultaneously, not in some far-off dimension, but right here, separated only by frequency. And your state is the key that opens one door and closes the others. You're not creating wealth from nothing. You're stepping into the timeline where wealth is already present. You're not attracting a person. You're entering the reality where that person is already part of your experience. This is why affirmations often fail. Because affirmations are mental. They're surface level. But your state is deeper. If you're affirming abundance while your body is tense with scarcity, while your nervous system is braced for loss, the affirmation is overridden. Your state is the broadcast. And the body's state is louder than the mind's words. So manifestation, in the 33rd degree understanding, is not about convincing yourself of something. It's about becoming congruent. Aligning thought, emotion, belief, and body into a unified signal. And when that signal is clean, when there's no contradiction, reality has no choice but to reflect it. The mechanism also involves what mystery schools called the law of mentalism. The idea that all is mind. That reality is a mental construct, not in the sense that it's imaginary, but in the sense that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. Matter doesn't create consciousness. Consciousness creates matter. Or more accurately, consciousness condenses into patterns we interpret as matter. Your body is consciousness, vibrating at a frequency low enough to appear solid. Your thoughts are consciousness, vibrating at a higher frequency. And the world you perceive is consciousness, filtered through the lens of your specific localization. So when you want something, you're not reaching out into an external world to grab it. You're adjusting your internal frequency to match the version of reality where it already exists. And the moment you match, it appears. Not through magic, through mechanics. This is why some people manifest effortlessly. They're not special. They're congruent. Their inner state matches what they want. They're not hoping. They're not wishing. They're being. And being is the only signal the universe responds to. But here's where it deepens. You're not just manifesting objects or outcomes. You're manifesting the entirety of your experience. Every person you meet, every conversation you have, every challenge you face, all of it is a reflection of your internal state. The people in your life are mirrors. They show you what you're broadcasting. The kind ones reflect your kindness. The hostile ones reflect your internal hostility, even if you're not aware you carry it. The supportive ones reflect your self-support. The neglectful ones reflect where you neglect yourself. And when you change your internal state, the cast of characters changes. Not always literally, but energetically. The same people respond to you differently. Or they fade out, and new people appear who match the new frequency. This is the part that challenges most people. Because it means you're responsible. Not in the sense that you're to blame for bad things happening, but in the sense that your state co-creates your experience. And if you don't like the experience, the solution is not to fight the external. It's to shift the internal. This doesn't mean bad things won't happen. It means your relationship to them shifts. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a conscious participant in creation. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this reflecting? What frequency am I holding that's generating this?" The mechanism of manifestation, once fully understood, dissolves the need for techniques. You don't need to visualize for hours. You don't need to repeat mantras. You don't need to burn candles or arrange crystals. Those can help if they shift your state. But they're not the source of power. You are. Your state is. And when your state is aligned, manifestation is as natural as breathing. You don't try to breathe. You just do. And in the same way, when you're aligned, you don't try to manifest. You just allow. And what's meant to appear in your reality appears. Not because you forced it, because you matched it. Understanding the secret is one thing. Living from it is another. Because knowledge without embodiment is entertainment. You can grasp the concepts intellectually and still operate from the old paradigm. The 33rd degree is not a belief system you adopt. It's a lived reality you embody. And embodiment requires practice. Not the kind of practice that feels like work, but the kind that feels like coming home. Like remembering something you always knew but temporarily forgot. Living from the 33rd degree means you stop taking the world personally. Not because you don't care, but because you see it for what it is. A reflection. A mirror. A feedback system showing you the frequency you're holding. When someone reacts to you with anger, you don't immediately defend. You pause. You ask, "What in me is this reflecting?" Maybe it's your own suppressed anger. Maybe it's a boundary you failed to set. Maybe it's nothing about you at all, and their reaction is their own unprocessed pain. But you don't collapse into their interpretation of you. You stay rooted in your own center. And from that center, you respond with clarity, not reactivity. It also means you stop seeking completion outside yourself. The endless chase for more success, more love, more validation, loses its urgency. Not because you stop wanting things, but because you recognize you're already whole. The lack you felt was never a lack of external things. It was a lack of internal alignment. And once alignment happens, once you feel the wholeness within, external things become bonuses, not necessities. You can enjoy them, but you're not dependent on them. And that shift from dependence to appreciation changes everything. You stop grasping. And when you stop grasping, flow begins. Living from this degree also means you become a translator. You see both the surface and the depth. You can operate in the world of separation, playing the roles required, navigating the systems, engaging with others as if they're separate. But you never lose sight of the unity beneath. You hold both perspectives simultaneously. And that dual awareness allows you to move through the world without being consumed by it. You're in the game, but not of it. You participate, but you're not trapped. And that freedom, subtle as it is, radiates. Others feel it even if they can't name it. You also develop a relationship with synchronicity that borders on conversational. The universe stops being a distant force and starts feeling like a partner. You ask a question, and within days, sometimes hours, the answer appears. Not through magical intervention, but through alignment. When you're clear about what you need, the field arranges circumstances to deliver it. A book falls off a shelf. A stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. An opportunity surfaces that you didn't know existed. And you stop calling it coincidence. You recognize it as confirmation that you're tuned in, that your signal is clean, that the feedback loop is active. Living from the 33rd degree also means you become comfortable with paradox. You hold seemingly contradictional truths without needing to resolve them. You are both an individual and the whole. You are both powerless over certain things and infinitely powerful over your response. You are both responsible for your experience and not to blame when things go wrong. The need to make everything fit into a neat logical box dissolves. You recognize that reality is more nuanced than binary thinking allows. And that recognition gives you permission to be complex, to hold multiple truths, to exist in the tension without collapsing into one side. Another mark of living from this understanding is humility. Not the false humility that diminishes yourself, but the real humility that comes from recognizing how vast the mystery is. Yes, you've seen through certain illusions. Yes, you understand certain mechanisms. But the deeper you go, the more you realize how much you don't know. And instead of pretending to have all the answers, you become comfortable saying, I don't know. That openness, that willingness to remain a student even after reaching high levels of understanding, keeps you growing. It keeps you flexible. And it keeps you from the trap of spiritual arrogance, which is just ego dressed in Enlightenment language. Finally, living from the 33rd degree means you stop waiting. You stop waiting to be ready. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop waiting for permission. You recognize that there's no arrival point. No finish line. No moment when you'll finally be there. You're always here. And here is where life happens. So you act now. You love now. You create now. You embody now. Not recklessly, but decisively. Because you understand that hesitation is just fear disguised as caution. And fear, once you see through the illusion of separation, loses its sting. What is there to fear when you recognize that all possible outcomes are just different versions of the same consciousness exploring itself? The 33rd degree secret doesn't make life easier. It makes life clearer. You still face challenges. You still feel pain. You still navigate loss. But you do so from a different place. A place of knowing. A place of centeredness. A place where the storms of life can rage, but the core of who you are remains untouched. And that core, that unshakable awareness, is what the degrees were always pointing toward. Not a secret to acquire, but a recognition to embody. You are not separate. You are not powerless. You are not small. You are the infinite, temporarily localized, experiencing itself through the specific lens of your life. And once you know that, truly know it, everything changes. Not the world, you, and in changing you, the world you experience changes with it.